Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. The shout hit the dining room like a bottle breaking on marble. Get out of here! Music didn't fade, it vanished. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Forks hovered above porcelain plates. The skyline beyond the glass walls kept glittering like nothing had happened, but inside, the air tightened as every head turned toward the windowside VIP table. A woman in a fitted red dress had sprung to her feet so fast her chair scraped the floor with a scream of its own. Her finger was extended, sharp and accusing, aimed at the man standing beside the table, tall, black, composed, wearing a simple gray sweater and dark jeans that didn't beg for attention. Across from her, a man in a tailored navy suit remained seated, posture relaxed, arms folded. He didn't intervene. He didn't need to. He was used to watching situations resolve themselves in his favor. A security guard moved in from the right, broad-shouldered, professional, one hand hovering near the radio on his belt. His eyes went to the loudest person first. "Ma'am," he said, controlled. "What seems to be the issue?" The woman didn't lower her voice. She raised it so the room could understand whose reality was supposed to win. "This man is trying to take our table," she said, slapping her palm lightly on the linen. "We were seated. We're VIP. He needs to leave." On the center of the table sat a small sign in black and gold lettering. VIP reserved. The man in gray glanced at it once, then back at her. "I'm not trying to take anything," he said. "I'm here for my reservation." The woman laughed, just loud enough to recruit strangers into her confidence. A couple of diners smirked. Not because it was funny, because it was familiar. Because rooms like this were trained to assume. The man in the navy suit finally spoke, smooth and dismissive. "We already checked in," he said. "If there's confusion, the staff will handle it." The guard turned to the man in gray. "Sir," he asked, still polite, "do you have confirmation of the reservation?" The man nodded and pulled out his phone without performance. One tap. A clean screen, booking details, timestamp, table location, name. The guard's eyes flicked across it, and then, without meaning to, his gaze slid to the man's clothes. The lack of visible status. The calm that didn't plead. His expression tightened slightly, as if the evidence had to fight harder because of who was holding it. The woman in red leaned in, voice sharpening into something uglier. "Oh my God," she said, loud enough for the tables behind her. "Do you really think that proves you belong here?" She looked him up and down, slow and deliberate, like she was inspecting a counterfeit bill. "This is a private dining floor," she added. "Not, whatever you think this is." The skyline beyond the glass walls glittered behind them, cold lights scattered across the city like a promise reserved for certain people. Inside, the air felt warmer, tighter, almost too expensive to breathe wrong. The guard straightened. "Sir," he said, a fraction less friendly, "I'm going to need you to step away from the table while we verify this with management." The man didn't step back. He didn't step forward either. He simply stayed exactly where he was, like the floor belonged to him in a way the room hadn't learned to recognize yet. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Marcus Hale. Marcus glanced around the room, not with embarrassment, with assessment. He noticed servers freezing, eyes darting for permission. He noticed a floor supervisor near the bar pretending to polish glassware that already shined. He noticed the way the crowd leaned subtly toward the couple, as if wealth had gravity. He looked back at the guard. "I understand you have a job," Marcus said evenly. "So do I." The woman scoffed. "A job," she echoed, dripping contempt. "That's cute." Marcus didn't react. He didn't need to. "I'm not going to argue with her," he said to the guard. "Please get the general manager. The one on duty." The guard hesitated just long enough to show the decision was already leaning in someone else's favor. Marcus placed his phone gently on the table, right next to the VIP sign that had been nudged aside for wine glasses. "I'm not here to make a scene," he said. "But I won't be escorted away from my own reservation." Behind the bar, the floor supervisor moved like urgency, wearing a tuxedo, quiet, controlled, expensive. She leaned into a phone call, voice low. "Daniel? I need you on the terrace floor. Now." The security guard remained planted near Marcus, body angled in a way that said, "I'm being polite, but don't test it." He kept glancing between Marcus's phone on the table and the couple seated like they'd been crowned there. The woman in red crossed her arms, chin high, eyes scanning nearby diners as if she expected applause for defending the sanctity of VIP. "This is unbelievable," she said loudly. "People think they can just walk into places like this and—" Marcus didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He looked past her, through the glass wall, toward the city lights floating like distant embers. His calm wasn't passive. It was deliberate, like a man counting moves before touching the board. The man in the navy suit leaned forward, voice low, sharp. "Listen," he said to Marcus, "you've made your point. But you're embarrassing yourself." Marcus's gaze shifted to him, slow and unbothered. "I'm not embarrassed," Marcus said. "I'm observant." The woman scoffed. "Oh my God. This is a scam. I've seen this before. He probably showed you a fake confirmation." "Ma'am," the guard cut in, not harsh, but firm. "Let us handle it." She snapped her head toward him like he'd betrayed her. "Handle it? I am handling it. I pay to be here." The words hung their payment used like a badge that purchased the right to strip dignity from another person. Marcus's eyes lowered to the VIP sign again. Someone had slid it aside to make room for their glasses, like the reservation itself was an inconvenience. He reached out and slid the sign back to the center of the table, aligning it perfectly with the folded napkins. Small motion. Heavy message. Marcus spoke to the guard instead. "I gave you confirmation," Marcus said. "If your system shows something different, that's fine. Let's resolve it with your manager." The guard nodded, but uncertainty tugged at the corners of his face. He'd done this job long enough to recognize two kinds of guests, the ones who demanded power, and the ones who carried it without needing to announce it. The woman in red wasn't reading that distinction. She was escalating. "You know what?" she snapped, reaching into her purse. "I have friends who can have you blacklisted from every place in this city." She pulled out her phone with theatrical force, tapping the screen like a weapon. "I'm calling the owner," she said, eyes glinting. "Let's see how long you're allowed to stand here." Marcus's face didn't change. "Go ahead," he said. That annoyed her, because she wanted fear. She wanted pleading. She wanted him smaller. She put the phone to her ear, voice syrupy now, performing politeness for whoever she imagined she could reach. Hi, yes, this is Vanessa, she said, loud enough for half the room to hear. I'm at your VIP terrace and there's a situation. She paused, listening. Her eyes flicked to Marcus with a smirk. There's a man here refusing to leave our table. Security is being too gentle. I need this handled immediately. Marcus watched her, not like an opponent, like a case study. The room stayed still. A server hovered nearby, tray trembling slightly. At a table behind them, someone turned away, uncomfortable, but unwilling to intervene. And then footsteps approached, measured, quick, controlled. A man in a charcoal suit appeared from the corridor, scanning the room with practiced authority. Daniel, general manager. Mid-30s. Crisp haircut. The kind of person trained to smile through discomfort and bury problems under velvet service. His eyes landed on Vanessa first. She straightened, triumphant. Finally, she said, "Tell your security to remove him." Daniel gave a polite nod, already halfway into his customer service script. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience," he began. "If you'll just..." His gaze shifted to Marcus. And the script died on his lips. Not like a movie gasp. More like his brain hit a wall. Because Daniel recognized him not from a rumor. From meetings. From contracts. From the kind of rooms where people sat up straighter when this man entered. Daniel's eyes widened a fraction. His shoulders stiffened. His throat moved as he swallowed. "Mr. Hale," he said quietly. Vanessa blinked. "What?" Daniel didn't take his eyes off Marcus. He looked suddenly cautious. Daniel started, then corrected himself, voice lower, respectful. "I didn't realize you were here tonight." Vanessa lowered her phone. "Excuse me? Why are you talking to him like that?" Marcus held Daniel's gaze, calm, steady. "I didn't plan to announce myself," he said. "I planned to have dinner." Daniel looked at the VIP sign, then at Marcus's phone on the table, then at the couple seated like they owned oxygen. "Yes," Daniel said, throat tight. "Of course. Your table is reserved." Vanessa laughed sharply. "Reserved for who? We're sitting here." Daniel's voice tightened. "Ma'am, may I ask whose name the reservation is under?" Vanessa hesitated. The man in the navy suit opened his mouth, then closed it again. Marcus didn't perform. He simply ended the suspense. "It's under Hale," he said. 7:30 VIP Terrace. Confirmed. Daniel nodded once, sharply. "That's correct." Vanessa's face tightened. "So what, you're just going to kick us out because he says a name?" Daniel answered, careful but firm. "Ma'am, this reservation is legitimate. This table is not available." The man in the navy suit muttered, "This is ridiculous. We were told." "Told by who?" Daniel asked, and the question landed like a trap. Vanessa's voice rose, frantic. "I don't care. Call the owner. Call corporate. Call whoever you need to call." Marcus finally looked at her fully. His eyes weren't angry. They were final. "Corporate already knows," he said. Daniel shifted one half-step, subtle, definitive. He wasn't standing with the loudest voice anymore. He was standing with the truth. Vanessa noticed. "Excuse me? Why are you standing over there?" Daniel's voice cooled. Ma'am, we need to clarify how you were seated at this table. Vanessa lifted her phone again. I'm still on the line, she announced. Yes, hello? Owner? I need you to hear this. Marcus watched her performance with stillness that made it pointless. Vanessa, he said gently, you're not talking to the owner. Her head snapped. What did you say? Daniel glanced at Marcus' silent request. Marcus gave the smallest nod. Ma'am, Daniel said, if you're calling the public reservation line, they can't override a confirmed VIP booking, especially not this one. Vanessa flushed. You don't know who I am. The phrase wasn't information. It was a threat wearing perfume. The man in the suit tried diplomacy. Let's not make this bigger than it needs to be, he said to Daniel. We'll move if you compass something better. Daniel blinked once. Sir, there is nothing better than this table. That's why it's reserved. Vanessa jabbed a finger toward Marcus. And it's not reserved for him. Look at him, he walked in here like he owned the place, no jacket, no. She stopped herself before saying the quiet part. Marcus didn't react to the insult. He reacted to the system behind it. I don't need a jacket to sit where I belong, he said. But you're right about one thing. Vanessa folded her arms, daring him. I did walk in like I owned the place, Marcus said. Because I do. The words didn't explode. They dropped into the space like a heavy coin hitting marble. The guard's fingers hovered over his radio, suddenly unsure which voice he should obey. Vanessa laughed, sharp and defensive. Oh my God. This is a scam. You're one of those people who... Who what? Marcus asked, voice even. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes darted, searching for words that wouldn't expose her. Daniel stepped forward. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to gather your belongings. We will escort you to another table, or, if you refuse, we will ask you to leave. You can't do that, Vanessa snapped. I can, Daniel said. The man in the navy suit stood, using heightened tailoring like armor. We're not nobody, he said. We have connections. Sponsors. Investors. Marcus turned to him fully. Investors? He tasted the word. Which firm? The man hesitated. One beat too long. Vanessa snapped, that's none of your business. Marcus nodded once. Exactly. He pulled out a slim black card holder, no logo, no flash, and slid a card onto the table beside the VIP sign. Daniel's eyes dropped to it. His face drained of color. Managing Partner, Hale Equity Group. Vanessa leaned in, squinting. Fake, she said too quickly. That's fake. Marcus didn't look at her. It's a reality check, he said. The guard leaned closer to Daniel. Sir, he asked quietly, do you want them removed? Daniel looked at Marcus. Marcus's gaze stayed steady. Not yet, he said softly. First, I want to know how they got seated. Vanessa's eyes widened. We were invited, she lied fast. The host put us here. Daniel's voice went razor thin. Which host, ma'am? Name. Vanessa stuttered. I don't know his name. Daniel nodded slowly, like he'd expected that answer. Footsteps hurried down the corridor. A young host appeared, breathless, tie slightly crooked. Late 20s. He stopped short when he saw Marcus, like he'd stepped into the wrong film. Evan, Daniel said. Did you seat them at table 9? Evan's eyes flicked to Vanessa, then the man in the suit. His face went pale. I thought, they said. Vanessa jumped in. Yes. We said we were invited. We were. Marcus watched Evan carefully, not with anger, like a man watching a witness decide whether to lie. Evan, Daniel said, who told you to mark Mr. Hale's reservation as pending verification? Evan's throat bobbed. His eyes slid briefly toward the bar. Marcus followed that glance. In the reflection of the glass, just beyond the circle of attention, the floor supervisor stood too still, hands clasped, face neutral, refusing eye contact. Marcus didn't accuse her yet. He spoke quietly. Daniel, he said, we're not dealing with a misunderstanding. Daniel swallowed. No, sir. We're dealing with a decision, Marcus said. And somebody made it. The supervisor walked forward with practiced grace. Early 30s. Customer service neutrality like a mask glued on tight. What's going on? She asked smoothly, as if she hadn't just been named by a glance. Daniel didn't answer her question. He asked his. Lena. Did you flag Mr. Hale's reservation? Lena blinked slowly. I don't know what you mean. Daniel held up his phone. We have an audit trail. Someone with manager access marked his booking as pending verification at 7-Eleven. Her eyes flicked once to the screen. She recovered fast. That's standard, she said. Sometimes we verify high-profile reservations. Verify, Marcus repeated softly. Lena turned to him, smile faint. VIP tables have protocols. Protocols don't start after I arrive early, Marcus said, calm. Protocols don't end with a couple being seated at my table while security tries to move me away. Lena's smile tightened. Sir, I'm sorry you feel. Don't do that, Daniel said, cold. Answer the question. Lena's eyes narrowed. I'm trying to manage the floor. No, Marcus said quietly. You were managing perception. Vanessa seized the moment. Finally, she said. Someone with sense. This man has been harassing us all night. Marcus held her steady. You weren't invited, he said. You took advantage of a biased decision. Marcus turned to Daniel. I want cameras. Seating logs. Staff messages from 6:30 to now. Yes, sir, Daniel said. Evan, Marcus said gently, when they came in, what did they tell you? Evan swallowed. His eyes flicked to Lena, then away. They said the table was theirs, he admitted. They said their reservation was under Grant. Vanessa lifted her chin. Because it was. Evan shook his head, voice cracking. It wasn't in the system. I told them that. Then what? Daniel demanded. Evan's gaze darted to Lena again. His fear was louder than his words. Lena tried to cut in, smooth and sharp. Evan is new. He gets confused. Marcus didn't let her. Then what? Marcus repeated, softer. Evan's shoulders sagged as if the weight finally won. Then Lena told me to seat them, he said. She said we'd figure it out after. A murmur rolled through the dining room, small, contained, unmistakable. That was the sound of people realizing this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Daniel's eyes burned. Evan, did Lena also tell you to flag Mr. Hale's reservation? Evan hesitated. Vanessa pounced. This is insane. You're interrogating him because of him? We're paying customers. Stop, Daniel said, firm enough to make her go still. Marcus looked at Lena with quiet disappointment that felt worse than anger. You saw me walk in, Marcus said. You could have approached. You could have asked my name. You could have verified the booking like policy claims. Instead, you turned my reservation into a problem. Lena's jaw tightened. You're making assumptions. Marcus's voice stayed even. No. I'm reading outcomes. Daniel tapped his phone. Audit log, he said, turning it toward her. Your credentials. Your login. Your timestamp. Lena stared at the screen. For the first time, her mask didn't fit right. She tried one last pivot, softening her voice to aim at the room. I was trying to keep things smooth, she said. People come in here and... She stopped herself again. The quiet part. Marcus finished it for her. And you decided I didn't look like the kind of man who should be sitting at that table, he said. The room went still in a deeper way. Lena's eyes flickered anger at being exposed, not at being wrong. Sir, she said tightly, I don't know you. Marcus nodded. That's the point. Daniel's voice turned procedural. Lena, you're relieved of duty pending review. Effective immediately. Please step off the floor. Her head snapped up. You can't do that. Daniel's eyes didn't soften. I can. Marcus didn't need proof yet. He could feel it, Lena hadn't acted alone. Vanessa's eyes flicked toward the bar again, then toward the corridor, as if she suddenly remembered someone else existed in the building. Marcus followed that flicker. And that's when he noticed a man standing near the private elevator doors, half in shadow. Older. Late 40s. Expensive suit. Watching the whole scene like he was waiting for it to resolve in his favor. He didn't look surprised. He looked involved. Daniel, Marcus asked quietly, who was that? Daniel's eyes followed Marcus's line of sight. The man by the elevator didn't move when he was noticed. He adjusted his cuff, slow, deliberate, like he had time to spare and outcomes to expect. That's Randall Klein, Daniel said. He's connected. Connected how? Marcus asked. Daniel hesitated. The hesitation was confession. He's on the board of the restaurant group, Daniel said carefully. Not majority. But he's loud. He donates. He makes calls. And staff listen. Randall stepped forward, hands open, a smile practiced in rooms with cameras and lawsuits. Marcus, he said, as if they were old friends. What a scene. Vanessa's head snapped toward him. Relief surged across her face like rescue arriving on cue. Randall, she cried. Thank God. Tell them to stop this. This man is harassing us and your staff is. Randall lifted a finger without looking at her. Vanessa stopped mid-sentence, stunned that even her savior could silence her. Randall's attention remained on Marcus. I heard there was confusion about a table, he said. No reason for anyone to get embarrassed. Marcus didn't return the smile. He didn't offer a hand. "You're right," Marcus said. "There's no reason. Yet here we are." "Let's handle it privately," Randall offered, nodding toward the elevator. "We can step into the lounge, sort out the misunderstanding, and get everyone back to enjoying their evening." It sounded reasonable. It was also a trap. Privately meant no witnesses, no accountability, no record. Marcus stayed where he was. "We'll handle it right here," Marcus said. Randall's smile tightened. "Come on," he lowered his voice, as if advising. "You know how optics work. We don't want to turn this into something it isn't." Marcus tilted his head. "What do you think it is?" Randall's eyes flicked toward Vanessa and the man in the suit, checking his props. "I think staff made a quick judgment call," Randall said smoothly. "People do. It happens. The important thing is we keep our guests comfortable." Marcus's gaze sharpened. "Which guests?" Randall's smile faltered a fraction. Daniel stood rigid, watching two powers collide, one loud and networked, the other quiet and absolute. Randall tried a new angle, voice dropping into shame disguised as mentorship. "Marcus," he said, "don't do this. You're better than this." Marcus's tone stayed even. "Better than what?" Randall's jaw flexed. "Better than making a spectacle." Marcus glanced around the room, hushed diners, frozen servers, security waiting, audit logs open like a loaded file. "This spectacle started when someone decided I didn't belong," Marcus said. "Not when I asked for my reservation." Randall sighed theatrically. "Okay. Fine. Let's be direct." He finally acknowledged Vanessa with a reassuring nod. "Vanessa and her partner are my guests," Randall said. "I told them they could come. If they took the wrong table, we'll fix it. No one needs to be punished." Daniel's eyes widened. There it was, clean truth. "So you told them to come," Marcus said, "and when they arrived without a reservation, Lena seated them anyway." Randall spread his hands. "I didn't instruct anyone to break policy." "You didn't have to," Marcus said. "Your name was the instruction." Vanessa snapped back to life. "Exactly. Randall invited us." Marcus looked at her, then at Randall. "You enabled them to take my table," Marcus said. "And you were comfortable letting security move me away until Daniel recognized my name." Randall's smile vanished. "That's not fair. You're implying." "I'm not implying," Marcus said. "I'm stating sequence." Randall hardened. "If you push this too far, you'll make enemies you don't need." "Enemies?" Marcus repeated softly. "Randall, you're standing in a building my firm refinanced 3 years ago. We hold the senior note. If covenants are breached, remedies trigger up to replacing management, forcing compliance actions, and putting the partnership under review." The bar went still. Even the bartender paused mid-pour. Randall tried to laugh it off. It came out thin. "You're bluffing." Marcus tapped his phone. 2 motions, efficient. Daniel's phone buzzed. He looked down, then up, stunned. "This is the financing agreement." Randall's throat bobbed. "You wanted this private," Marcus said. "So you could shape the story. But the story already happened." He gestured lightly to the room. They saw what you were willing to let happen to me, Marcus said. Daniel moved with clipped precision. Security, begin manager-only download of terrace footage from 6:30 to present. Pull door access logs. Preserve everything. Vanessa tried to reclaim control with volume. This is insane. We came here to eat. Marcus held her steady. You took what wasn't yours, he said. And you counted on the room to agree. Daniel turned to Vanessa and her partner. Ma'am. Sir. You are no longer welcome to remain at this table. You may leave on your own, or we will escort you out. Vanessa looked at Randall. Randall? Randall didn't meet her eyes. He stood still, calculating, distancing himself like she'd become an inconvenient receipt. It got out of hand, Randall said quietly. It didn't get out of hand, Marcus replied. It got seen. The guard stepped forward, hand open, professional. Ma'am, this way. Don't touch me, Vanessa snapped. No one is touching you, the guard said. But you need to move. The man in the navy suit grabbed his coat. Let's go. Now. Vanessa resisted for half a heartbeat, pride fighting survival, then grabbed her clutch and stood so abruptly her chair scraped again. The same sound as the opening, only now it didn't sound powerful. It sounded like retreat. As they stepped away, Marcus lifted the VIP sign, smoothed the linen, and placed the sign back in the exact center. VIP reserved, hail. Randall watched them leave and tried to reclaim the air. Marcus, he said, forcing calm, you're turning this into a crusade. I'm turning it into a standard, Marcus replied. Crusades are emotional. Standards are structural. Randall's expression tightened. And what about me? You're dragging my name through compliance because I invited guests? Your name is here because it was leverage, Marcus said. Staff bent policy because your influence taught them it was safe. That's not my fault, Randall snapped. If your presence causes people to break rules, Marcus said, your presence is a risk. Daniel's phone buzzed. He read, then looked up carefully. Compliance is requesting immediate action regarding Mr. Klein's on-premise privileges pending review. Randall's eyes widened. What? Temporary suspension of on-site privileges, Marcus said. Private elevator access. Charge to account. Back-of-house access. Pending review. You can't just. I can, Marcus said, simple. He nodded to Daniel. Execute it. Daniel spoke into his earpiece. Deactivate Mr. Klein's private elevator access and charge privileges effective immediately. Document and confirm. The elevator panel blinked red denied. For the first time, Randall looked like a man discovering influence doesn't override ownership. Randall tried bargaining. Name a number. Name a donation. Marcus stared at him. You think money fixes what you did. Money is what you used to make it possible. He stood, slow and measured. I'm not taking your donation, Marcus said. I'm taking your access. Randall's mouth tightened. This will hurt the business. What hurts the business, Marcus said, is when people learn the luxury is built on exclusion. He turned back to Daniel. Comp anyone disrupted not as hush money. As respect. Then invite everyone to continue their evening. Yes, sir, Daniel said. Marcus turned to the guard. What's your name? Andre, the guard said. Andre, Marcus said, you followed the loudest voice tonight. Next time, follow policy. Protect the person being targeted, not the person doing the targeting. Andre's face tightened with shame. Understood. Good, Marcus said. Tomorrow, you're assisting the training team. Accountability isn't a firing squad. It's a rebuild. The room began to move again. Servers resumed walking. Diners resumed speaking, but with a quieter, more careful energy, like the restaurant had been forced to grow up in a single night. Randall tried once more, softer now. You've made your point. Let's end this here. Marcus faced him fully, calm as a courthouse. My point wasn't to embarrass you, Marcus said. My point was to stop you. Stop me from what? Randall asked, irritation trying to sound like disbelief. From teaching people that some guests bend rules, Marcus said, and others have to prove they deserve to exist. Randall's face reddened. You're making me a villain. No, Marcus said. You're uncomfortable because the mirror is public. Randall's eyes darted to diners, witnesses he couldn't control. He pivoted. You're going to cost people jobs. Bias costs people dignity, Marcus answered. I'm costing it consequences. Andre shifted closer, professional and present. Randall understood. He forced his face into a controlled mask. Fine, Randall said. I'll cooperate. He turned toward the private elevator out of habit, then remembered. He stopped, swallowed, and walked the long route past the dining room, past the people now watching him the way they'd watched Marcus earlier. Randall's exit wasn't loud. It was humiliating precisely because it was quiet. Marcus didn't chase the satisfaction of watching it. He turned back to the staff where the real ending lived. Evan stood near the corridor, eyes wet with stress. Am I fired? He asked. Marcus shook his head. You're trained. And you're protected. Daniel stepped in, firm. Evan stays. He won't be punished for being pressured. Marcus nodded once. Good. He turned to Andre again. Tomorrow morning, you meet my operations team. Not for punishment. For leadership. You're helping write the dispute protocol. Andre swallowed. What's the first line? Marcus's voice was quiet, but it carried. Believe the reservation, he said. Not the stereotype. Lena was escorted out through the service corridor, no spectacle. Just removal of a gatekeeper who had turned bias into procedure. Her outcome would come later in reports and accountability meetings, where the truth didn't need an audience to stay true. Daniel lingered beside Marcus, voice low. I owe you an apology, he said. Not for the table. For the first moment my staff assumed you were the problem. Marcus looked at him for a long beat. Apologies don't rebuild systems, Marcus said. Actions do. Daniel nodded, swallowing hard. Then we'll rebuild it. Marcus finally sat at the VIP table. He adjusted the reserved sign not as a flex, as a restoration. He placed his phone beside it, screen dark, the storm finished. Outside, the skyline kept shining. Inside, the room was different. Not because a black man revealed power, but because a black man refused to let power be the only language that earns respect. Marcus lifted his glass, no toast, no speech, just a quiet sip. Dignity didn't arrive with volume. It arrived with certainty. And that night, in a room that had tried to decide who belonged, Marcus Hale didn't just reclaim a table. He reset a standard.